As we all know, Spider-Man is a character that has some of the most expansive villains in his rogues gallery. However, there are a few that we feel have been overlooked throughout the years.
A few that are underrated, you might say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Thomas.
I'm Merlin.
Together we're the Comic Lads, and today we are talking about the most underrated Spider-Man villains.
We all have our favorite, we all have our least favorite, but there's no denying that the popularity of some characters far outweigh others.
A lot of characters tend to get overshadowed with the over-reliance on using characters like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and so forth.
A year ago, we made a video talking about our favorite / greatest Spider-Man villains. You know, talking, like you said, the likes of Kingpin, Green Goblin, Doc Ock. But if you go a little bit deeper, there's some guys in there that need a little bit of love.
But before we get into the discussion, guys, we want to know your thoughts. Who do you think is the most underrated Spider-Man villain?
Don't be throwing Venom in there.
Like, come on.
Or like Carnage. Let's go a little bit more obscure. Obviously, we're not going to include someone like Big Wheel on the list.
Yeah, sorry, all the Big Wheel fans out there.
You know. And also, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us out. Turn on notification bells and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future uploads.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. So we do have 5, but as always, we can't help ourselves, and we got to throw a little honorable mention in there.
Yeah, this one, he's an honorable mention because he has been getting a fair measure of exposure in recent years, maybe even going to be the villain in Spider-Man Brand New Day.
The first person on our list, Mr. Negative, Martin Lee.
So my first introduction to Martin Lee was with Marvel Spider-Man on the PS4.
Which honestly, was a breath of fresh air, because going into that story, it had the benefit of taking place a few years into Spider-Man's career.
Yeah.
It allowed us to be introduced to someone more obscure like Mr. Negative,
yes,
without having to rely on any of the quote-unquote heavy hitters that do appear later on. I don't know, I think there's just something really special about the fact that he's not really a terrible guy at heart, too.
He's not. He's got that classic, amazing Spider-Man villain trope, which is he's connected to Peter Parker's personal life. Obviously, I'm referring to Martin Lee being the head of Feast, which really paints him as like a classic good guy. And that kind of works in his favor and also to his detriment, I feel, because once you see him, you're like, yeah, you're way too good. I know you're gonna be a bad guy.
And I love too, in different iterations, the connection to Aunt May and stuff.
Yes.
Even in the MCU, we don't even see Martin Lee in No Way Home, but you know that Aunt May works at Feast.
So you know he's looming somewhere in the background.
Oh, he's definitely looming. But Mr. Negative, great underrated villain. Definitely would like to see him in more media.
Someone else who has been getting some great exposure recently, The Spot.
The Spot, I remember my first exposure to him was in the 90s animated series.
Yeah, mine too, of course.
It's just what a great episode.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can't go wrong with goofy portal plot lines.
Well, and it's such a great idea too. It's so visually interesting and fun, and it creates such fun antics with Spider-Man, where he tries to punch him, then he just ends up punching himself in the face.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But also, we can't complain because I think we got the best adaptation of Spot that we've ever gotten in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And thank God it was in an animated movie, because I think no matter what, Spot's powers will always look best in animation.
I mean, I think anything in comic book form just works better in animation.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. I do like that, besides in the latter half of Across the Spider-Verse, he's kind of just a goofball. He's not like a super sadistic, dark, creepy villain. He's kind of just
well, that's kind of how he is in the 90s Spider-Man show, too, is that he's kind of like a nerd that has gotten too much power too quick.
Also, just one of the best, most simple designs of all time. It's so silly,
just
but
a guy with spots. End of the video.
Do you prefer his design where you can see his facial features in the 90s cartoon and older comics, or in Across the Spider-Verse where he doesn't really have a face, it's just a portal?
He does look much more like a kind of interdimensional entity when you can't see his face and his features.
Agreed.
But I don't know, the child in me just when I think of the Spot, I think of that shot in the 90s show where he's I am the Spot.
Yeah, the Spot.
Call me the Spot.
Let us know if you guys want a 90s Spider-Man retrospective.
Yes.
Because I kind of want to talk more about it. Next up, this is a very special Spider-Man villain.
Some people might argue that he's not really underrated just because he has a lot of exposure, but I would argue he's underrated because we never do much with his character. I'm talking about Sandman.
One thing that I love about this character is that, especially in various depictions in the comics, and they've done it in Spectacular, is that he's not a completely terrible guy. They even do it in the Raimi movies, actually.
Yeah. Well, in the Raimi movies, it's so, like, he's not a bad guy at all, you know, and they do, like, the sick daughter plot. How do you feel about the sick daughter plot line? I'm kind of sick of it.
I don't know. I mean, it's just a means of telling the same story for him in a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do really like it when he's just, especially in, like, Spectacular, where he's just, like, a bank robber that wants to have a bit of money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He just wants some cash.
Yeah, he just wants a big score.
I wanted the big score.
It's crazy, too, to think that at different points in Spider-Man's history, he's even been, like, a reserve Avenger.
That is the most busted thing ever, and that goes to show you how lame the Avengers brand was before the likes of Civil War and the MCU.
Before Robert Downey Jr. came in and was like, no, we're cool, guys. Please read us.
Literally that.
You gotta also, I mean, we're talking about animation and fights.
One of the coolest power sets in all of comics. I like that he has the ability to, like, accumulate any sand that doesn't even have to be a part of his body and control it.
In terms of him being a villain, it's fun, too, seeing how Spider-Man will defeat him.
Yes.
You always have to kind of defeat him in, like, very scientific ways, like getting him wet or, like, burning him.
Or, you know, in his first appearance where Pete vacuums him.
Oh, Jesus. Let's see that in the MCU.
That sucks. Yes. So undignified and lame. Next up, guys, this is a villain who... He's definitely top 5 Spider-Man villains for me. And I will never not be furious that we haven't seen him in the MCU since his first appearance, and that is Scorpion.
Yeah, Mac Gargan. One thing that I love about Scorpion is his connection with J. Jonah Jameson.
Yes, J. Jonah Jameson, if you didn't know, is the one that bankrolled his supervillain origin, which is, like, so busted.
Yeah, and it was an experiment gone wrong.
Yeah.
And so you have this, like, deep-rooted hatred between Mac Gargan and J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, I mean, J. Jonah Jameson obviously funded his whole experiment into the Scorpion persona so he could kill Spider-Man.
He not only has this huckster in Jameson trying to besmirch his name every single day, now he also created, like, a villain that at the time was, like, billed as being even more powerful than Spidey. But Scorpion, I don't know, he's just such a great idea for a Spider-Man character, and, like, he has so much potential to be his kind of, like, reverse Flash type character, like his anti-Spider-Man villain character. Obviously that went to Venom and we'll never go back from that, but I think Scorpion had the potential to be that, and no one ever had the balls or, like, good ideas to push him into that sphere.
All right, next up, number 2. We all know Green Goblin, but there is another side to the kind of Goblin mythos, being Hobgoblin.
Ever since seeing him be the first Goblin in that adaptation of Spider-Man's mythos and being voiced by Mark Hamill, I was like, this guy's up there with some of my favorite Spidey villains.
I gotta say, like, in terms of villain designs too, it's gotta be top 3 best Spider-Man villain designs. In some ways, I kind of like it more than the Green Goblin design.
I love the
like,
hood and cape.
Yeah, the orange just pops so nicely.
I also like that he has more of, like, a kind of demonic mask than Green Goblin does. Green Goblin is more like classic, like, evil elf, whereas Hobgoblin kind of has almost like a reptilian design to his face, you know?
Well, he definitely does look more monstrous, like you said. Like, he's got, like, the pointy teeth and shit. Especially the different art from, like, the 80s when he first appeared.
Yeah.
Where you'll just see, like, his silhouette and, like, glowing eyes through his, like, the shadow of his mask. It just looks so cool.
Dude, the cover where he's ripping Spidey's suit in half.
Oh,
it's disgusting.
So good.
And I like how he is, first and foremost, a criminal. Like, he's just like about his money and growing his empire more than just like, oh, I'm gonna bang all of Spider-Man's family members, you know, and kill them.
Yeah.
He is a goblin who is not insane, which makes him more of like an effective criminal sometimes even than Green Goblin, because like his psychosis and emotions and like multiple personalities don't get in the way.
Yeah, there's kind of the emotional connection between him and Spider-Man
Is not really there.
it's taken out of the equation.
Yeah. All right, guys, the final villain we're going to talk about today is one whose potential I feel has never been fully realized. We're talking about Spider-Man's resident master of disguise, the Chameleon.
Yeah, you're talking about a character that, like you said, hasn't fully reached his potential, and I almost feel like his style of storytelling and power set lends itself better to someone like Batman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could do so much, like, deep-rooted identity mystery with this character.
Yeah.
And I feel like we never really fully see it.
We don't. Like, we always just get the classic, like, oh, I'm gonna dress up like Spider-Man and, like, rob banks. And I'm like, at some point, I want to see more from a villain that can literally become anyone. Like, you could do some twisted mind games with a character like that.
Yeah, and I like it too. Like you're saying, he can become anyone, and that lends itself so well to stories involving other Spider-Man villains too.
Yeah.
Chameleon is a villain that, as a reader, you should always be questioning things when you're reading a story about him.
Yes.
One thing that I want to see, I mean, there might be someone in the comments who will, like, correct me and be like, you're forgetting Amazing Spider-Man issue 766 or whatever. But one thing I want to see is a story where Chameleon takes charge as the center villain and knows Spider-Man's actual identity and fucks with him in his day-to-day personal life. That might have been done already, but I don't know.
I would love to see that. I would love to see Chameleon take charge and not be, you know, like a hired agent.
Yeah,
someone.
Exactly.
Because I feel like that's so often what he is. It's like, oh, like me as like the big bad villain, I need someone to do some shady shit for me, so I'm gonna call the Chameleon. It's like, no, give me some fucking gravitas with the Chameleon and have him have his own plot.
It's also funny talking about the history of Spider-Man villains, and going back all the way back to the 60s, Chameleon was his first villain ever that he faced against.
First ever.
And I feel like people, it's never even in the equation when we're talking about greatest Spider-Man villains, and that kind of baffles me, because it's like, he was the first. He should be theoretically one of the best, if not the best villain.
I know, and he really deserves his due. He doesn't have, like Chameleon does not have that one great story that a lot of these other characters have. Seems like he's going to be a bigger player in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2.
And Spider-Man 3.
And Marvel Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
I'm super down.
Yeah. But guys, that's just a few of the most underrated villains out there for Spider-Man. I mean, there's so many to pick from. We're going to get a ton of comments being like,
these are actually 5 extremely popular villains.
But that's also where you guys come into play. Leave a comment down below. Let us know who your favorite underrated villain is.
Be sure to click the notification bell to be notified for all our future uploads. Drop a like if you haven't already. And we've been the Comic Lads.
And we love you.
Very, very much.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.